Hi guys, today is Tuesday, April 7th. Sorry, my dates are all messed up. Tuesday, April 7th. This is the only video besides yesterday's that you will have this week because this week is a shorter week because of Easter and some teacher in-service days. So just know that you're not going to see me the rest of the week. I know you're really bummed. But, you know, that's it. It's just Monday, Tuesday this week. And so I just hope you guys all have an amazing Easter. I know it's weird because we don't get to go to church, but we can still go to church at home. So yeah, if your church doesn't do online church, there are tons of churches that have options. My church is State Line Church. And they do like Facebook and stuff. So if you don't have a church you want to go to, you can always find State Line Church. And they have an Easter service next Sunday. So, but yeah, I would just encourage you to go to church next Sunday. Don't forget why we're celebrating, and get outside. It's supposed to be, especially today, it's supposed to be like 70. I know it's supposed to rain some, but I'm hoping it doesn't rain all day because it's supposed to be beautiful. So I hope that you get outside and you get to just enjoy nature and just kind of enjoy spring, and just remember what Easter is all about. It's not about the Easter Bunny. It's not about all the candy and chocolate, but it's about Christ and what he did for us. So just kind of a little reminder, all of your homework from this week will be due next Tuesday, because of Monday we always take off because of Easter, so your work won't be due till Tuesday. So just know that your homework won't be due. I will still be around to answer questions, probably do the typical 9 to 3. I'm not going to be answering questions on Easter, because I know a lot of you have questions and you're emailing me like, sometimes 11 o'clock at night, or, you're emailing me like, I need this, and it's like 8 p.m. Well, I do get to enjoy, I want to answer your questions and stuff, but I also want to have some, like, time for myself and, my family and stuff, and so, if it's a simple question, I'll totally answer, but some of you are asking for a lot, and so just be patient. I will answer you, but it'll be in the morning, okay? All right, so today we're going to do the podcast of the week. I love this one because, first of all, if you get creeped out by things easily, this is not the video for you. I was getting a text message. This is not the video for you if you get creeped out easily. Although I didn't think it was scary and I'm like a chicken. But yeah. So these are monster stories and they all have to do with World War II. And they're just kind of like things people believed, not World War II, World War I, sorry. They're just kind of things that people believed in during this time period. And so, yeah, that's kind of what happened. So I thought I'd go through the 3 titles and then we'll get to the stories. Now, if you know history pretty well and World War I information, you may know the answer to this one. So we'll see if you can figure it out. I did figure this one out. I am terrible at figuring out these stories. I don't know why you'd think because I'm a history teacher, but they're so random. And I have been really bad about figuring them out. But this week I was very proud of myself because I knew it pretty much right away. Okay, so here are the 3. The Ghost of Sarajevo, Zombie Fort Defenders, and then Ghouls of No Man's Land. So I'm going to go in order. So story number 1 is Ghost of Sarajevo. Again, story number 2 is Zombie Fort Defenders. And story number 3 is the Ghouls of No Man's Land. So story number 1, hopefully you guys know, but some of you have never studied World War I, that World War I started with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Now, the big thing about this is that there was this area and it wanted to become Serbia. It wanted to be, kind of its own new country, and there was a lot of conflict about that. And the other thing that really affects World War I is that everyone kind of had an alliance with someone, and so when one country went to war, then they all had to follow. It's kind of like the domino effect. And so that's kind of what happens with World War I. It just seems kind of random, like why would the assassination of one guy cause this? And it's just because of alliances, and there was already some tension going, so it was kind of an excuse in a way to like, oh, well, let's go ahead and start a war. So the assassination takes place in Sarajevo. Now, this is part of the area that wanted to become Serbia. And there was a group, they were called the Black Hands, and they were Serbians, and their whole goal was to assassinate Franz Ferdinand when he visited. They actually throw a bomb as his limo is going through, or his car is going through the city, and it failed, and it threw like it bounced off the car. It killed a couple people, but yeah, it didn't affect him. So he is able to make the meeting that he was going to. And the Black Hand were like, well, they kind of just separated. They failed, they separated and kind of went on with their lives. And one of the guys stopped at a deli after all of this. This seems really random, but it's pretty true. Or not pretty true, it is true, that there's this story that people say that some history books just say he was standing there. Some history books say he was getting a sandwich. I don't know why it matters, but anyway. So he stopped at a deli getting a sandwich. Now, this is the crazy thing. Franz Ferdinand's car goes right in front of the deli. So the guy from the Black Hand is like, what? So he decides to shoot him. And so the guy shoots him. This starts World War I. This is the problem, though. Nobody can understand why Archduke Franz Ferdinand's car was even on this street of the deli. It wasn't on the route. They don't know if maybe the driver got lost. They really don't know. So there's a little bit of a mystery right there. They go to ask the driver after all of this like chaos, and the driver is like missing. This all happens, and they go to find the driver, and he's gone. There are two rumors about what happened. One is that the driver was afraid. He figured he'd be charged because why was he even on that road? And a lot of people think that he obviously wasn't from there, and so he got lost, and that's kind of how they ended up there. But nobody really knows because they have never found him. They assume that he was just afraid and ran away, thought he'd be in trouble, or people have questioned maybe he's a Serb and he did it on purpose. Other people think he was a ghost. He was this ghost driver and he just kind of disappeared, or he was never really there. They asked Ferdinand's wife, and she claimed she didn't even ever remember seeing a driver, which my question is, like, why would you get in the car if you don't see a driver? Like, I don't know. Wouldn't you be freaked out by that? But anyway. And so she claimed she never saw a driver. She didn't remember one. And the Serbs have always thought that this is a supernatural power that helped start the war to get, it was for their mission. They were going to get, this ghost was helping them, go with fate. Helping fate, I guess you could say. So that is story number 1, the ghost of Sarajevo. Okay, story number 2. This one is a little kind of gross. That's why I said, you might not like these. And so again, if you don't want to listen, just stop the video. This is the Zombie Fort Defenders. This one also takes place in World War I. It is the Osijek Fortress. It is in what is now Poland. It was not Poland at the time. And it was before a lot of people don't know this battle. It was before the United States entered the war. And so a lot of people don't really know about this battle, but it's pretty cool. You can maybe look it up later when we're done with the video. Remember, don't look things up until we're done, until you know the truth. And so this battle was Germany's full offense against Russia. There was this fort, and Germany wanted it. It takes place from July through August. And August 6th is when this stuff goes down, the crazy stuff. So Germany kept striking against Russia, but they were unsuccessful. By this point in time, though, by August, Russia only has 800 to 900 men, and Germany has like 8,000. So Germany decides, first of all, they're pretty innovative with their weapons, so they decide they're going to use something new. It's chlorine gas. And it is not good. Like, they're going to launch it into the fort, and it should kill all of them almost instantly. And what it does is it like destroys the tissue in your body. This is where I'm sorry, it's kind of gross. Like, especially around your eyes. It destroys the tissue in your lungs. And it kind of, this is the part that, ew, I'm sorry. It kind of makes like your tissue melt off. Kind of. I know it's gross. I'm sorry. I'm not even going into full detail of like what he said. But anyway. And so, yeah, it's not good. So like a person who's been hit with chlorine gas, first of all, they're not going to survive very long, but it's going to affect like especially around the eyes and that kind of stuff because that tissue is so much weaker than other tissue and it's more exposed. And so they decide to launch the gas. Russia is not prepared because this is kind of one of the first, World War I is the first time we really see this chemical warfare, and so they're just not ready for it. They don't have masks, so they actually take their undershirts and like dunk them in water to try and save themselves. But the tissues are deteriorating. And so the leader of the Russians is like, let's just go and fight them until we die. Because they knew they were dying. They knew, most of them weren't going to survive this, but they decide to just go out and attack before they die. Now, if you can imagine, you have these Russian soldiers. The Germans thought they would instantly die. All of a sudden, they come out of this fort, and they are, like, nasty. They're bleeding, and, like, their eyes are gross. And if you can imagine, they probably look like zombies. Plus, it's affecting, like, their body, how they carry themselves, so some of them are probably limping and stuff. Now, the Germans are terrified. And one of the questions one of the guys said was, like, well, how did the Russians, because the Russians win the battle. And somebody was like, well, how did the Russians win that? Well, they only have 800 men versus 8,000. Well, if you think about it, the Germans thought the Russians were going to instantly die or die very quickly. They weren't going to come out. And then all of a sudden, these zombie-looking creatures show up. They didn't know, they probably wouldn't have known how many men were coming because they thought they were zombies from, some other world or something. So the Germans, like, retreat. They run away. The Russians are able to maintain the fort. They do lose the fort, like, a month later, but they were successful at this battle because the Germans totally thought they were Russian, or they totally thought they were zombies. So yeah, that's Zombie Fort Defenders. I think it's kind of a cool story. A little crazy, but pretty cool. Okay, and then we have the last story, the Ghouls of No Man's Land. Now, in World War I, the biggest, I wouldn't say the best strategy, like the strategy that a lot of people went for, the strategy that's most famous from World War I is trench warfare, and that's pretty much where they dug these big, pretty much tunnels, and they just kind of hung out, and they tried to fight. Their goal was to, kind of attack the other trench. But they didn't get very far on the Western Front. They were just kind of all stuck in these trenches, and they just didn't get anywhere. Now, in the middle was a place called No Man's Land. Now, this is the thing about No Man's Land. It was, first of all, protected by barbed wire on both sides. There were mines that had gone off in the middle. There were holes from, like, where they had shot off. I am terrible at, like, weapons and stuff, by the way. I'm very sorry. Where they had shot things off and it had kind of, like, created craters and stuff in the ground. And the thing about No Man's Land is obviously it's a space that nobody wants to go, because if you go up on No Man's Land, you're probably going to get shot and killed. But it's also like a metaphor, and it was kind of like a mind game. Like, it was, people were very superstitious about it. Nobody wanted to end up on No Man's Land. Because you're just not going to survive it. And it was just a big mind game. Nobody, like, controlled it, but also no one survived it. And so it was just a mind game that people thought it was haunted, superstitious, and so they believed that there were ghouls who haunted No Man's Land. There were deserters who, like, gave up on the war and kind of left the war, and people thought that, this is, like, seriously, people actually thought that there were ghouls of No Man's Land. Like, there were caverns below No Man's Land, and these deserters were hiding out there. And at night, they would hear, like, these creepy noises, and they said that the ghouls would go and take whatever they needed from whatever they found in No Man's Land. So, like, if there's a body laying in No Man's Land, they would go and get, like, whatever they needed, whether that's boots or weapons or whatever. And there are stories of them hearing these sounds and just saying that it was these ghouls of No Man's Land, and that that's what happened to deserters after they left. They became a ghoul and haunted No Man's Land. So that's story number 3. It's not as, like, long as the other 2 stories, but yeah, it is story number 3. So story number 1, The Ghost of Sarajevo, with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Story number 2, The Zombie Fort Defenders. And story number 3, The Ghouls of No Man's Land. So, I'm going to give you a second. What do you think the answer is? Okay, so anyway. So here we go. Story number 3, The Ghouls of No Man's Land. Totally true. They were very superstitious and thought that that was a possibility, that there were ghouls in No Man's Land. So story number 3, totally true. So all we have left now are The Ghost of Sarajevo and The Zombie Fort Defenders. This is where I was like, I know what it is. I know what it is. Well, I knew what it was right away, but, so your true story is, your false story. The story that is a lie or false, is The Ghost of Sarajevo. First of all, this is how I knew, is that Franz Ferdinand's wife also dies with him. And so there's no way for her to say that there was no driver because she died too. Because he even went into like she went to an insane asylum to deal with it because she just said she didn't see a driver, but she died. So there was no way that that one could be true because she died along with him. They were both shot. So, and I double checked that to make sure because he didn't go into that because he got distracted by other stories. So, if you like this podcast situation, you can always go and listen on history or his story. I personally love it. I listen to it every week. They have a new one every week. I think there's like 20 episodes. So if you're like, I really need something to do, that's something you can do. I think they're really funny. And they're Christians, so there's no cursing or anything like that, which is great. So, but yeah, so I hope that you guys have a great week, and I will see you guys on video back again next Tuesday. Next week for homework, we're doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. So kind of that's the plan for next week. So I hope you guys have a happy Easter and enjoy your family, and I will see you soon. Bye.